So I see that Dr. James has joined us today, and I'd like to transition to her presentation. Dr. James is the Director of Development and Research at the AACTE organization. And she also helps to coordinate the Holmes Scholars activities nationally. So Dr. James, you can proceed. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me, Dr. Sherilyn. Good morning. Actually, it's good morning on my end. I am in early afternoon. I'm in Washington, D.C. I am so excited, and I'm sure it's good morning on your end too. I'm so excited to be with you all to share a bit more about the Holmes program and hopefully answer any questions you may have. Before I begin, I do want to let you know that this presentation will be available to you. Dr. Sherilyn will email it out. So if you miss anything that I've said, just know that you will have access to this after the presentation today. So just to start off, introducing myself, I am Weade James. I am the Director of Development and Research, as Dr. Sherilyn mentioned, at AACTE. And I'm also a Holmes alumna. So all of you are somehow involved with the Holmes program. And I'm proud to say that definitely that program helped me to successfully finish my doctoral studies and also just increase my network. In terms of research, also in terms of opportunities, different internships that I did during my doctoral studies were individuals who led me to those through my Holmes network, and also in terms of employment opportunities. So just as a heads up, I am one of 3 team members who are actually involved in supporting the Holmes program. At AACTE. My 2 other colleagues, Dr. Jacqueline Rodriguez, is also a Holmes alumna of University of Central Florida. So as you can see, the Holmes network is far and wide. So you are definitely, in for an experience. If you have been part of the Holmes program for a while, you're definitely, you know that, the network certainly provides opportunities for you. So Dr. Jacqueline Rodriguez is the Vice President at AACTE, as well as my colleague, Nicole Dunn, who also supports with the Holmes program. She's not a Holmes alumna, but she is very much a champion of the program. So if you are involved in Holmes from time to time, you might see Nicole's name appear on communications. Just know that there are 2 other folks behind the scenes who are supporting with this work. So a bit about AACTE. The organization has been around for over 70 years now. We're a national association. So with that in mind, we represent colleges and universities, particularly colleges and schools of education, who are preparing the next generation of teachers and educators, principals, administrators, researchers who are going to higher education. Our focus is on educator preparation in all aspects in different specialty areas. We represent 600 institutions, as I mentioned. They range from private to public Research One institutions. We also have many minority serving institutions who are members of AACTE. And of course, UNLV is a member of AACTE. What that means is that because UNLV is a member of ours, you are also a member of AACTE. That means you have access to all of the resources that AACTE offers. So if you don't yet have an AACTE account, I would encourage you to go on our website and create an account. Join the AACTE network so that you can start to receive communications from us. We have various newsletters that go out on many different topical areas. You can access all of our research reports, which as doctoral students, you would appreciate. We have several issue briefs on policy issues. We have a report that we publish biannually called the National Portrait. And that report basically highlights trends in educator preparation. Some issue briefs that you might find useful. We've published issue briefs on how education students are paying for college. I find that to be one of the most interesting publications that we've published recently, because it talks about the challenges that students of color, low-income and minority students are particularly facing in pursuing higher education. So it breaks down by race and ethnicity, Black, Latinx students and white students, Asian American students, how much loans these students are taking off to pursue higher education, and how much parental support they're getting. And oftentimes, the debt that these students are taking out, they're not able to pay back that debt, right, when they enter the profession. So things like that, again, depending on your areas of focus in your line of research, you might find interesting. I would encourage you to go to AACTE website, create an account so that you can access all of the research and reports that we offer. And if you have any questions while I am presenting, feel free to add those to the chat, and perhaps we'll have a few minutes afterwards for some Q&A. So on the high level, again, our mission is really to elevate educator preparation. We serve as a national voice in terms of making sure that teachers are profession ready. We do that through research, through professional development, advocacy, and collaboration. So inquiry and innovation is one of our strategic priorities. As I mentioned, we have several research reports that we have published really to advance the field of educator preparation. In addition to that, we have several different projects that we implement to support our AACTE members. So network improvement communities, where we have select institutions who are coming together to study barriers around recruiting and retaining teachers. We know that that is a national crisis. So the teacher shortage issue, and also the lack of teacher diversity. So there are various projects that we implement around innovation and inquiry. In addition to that, one of our second strategic priorities is around diversity and equity and inclusion. Obviously, the Holmes program actually falls within the strategic priorities. The Holmes program is one of many initiatives that we implement to really advance equity in the field. We just launched a second project that is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that is looking at assessment barriers to program entry for teacher candidates. If you are familiar with assessments, whether to become licensed or whether to enroll in the educator preparation program, several reports have been published about the disparities in how test takers perform on those assessments due to various reasons, right? Whether it's testing bias or whether it's the cut scores of how states are setting, passing requirements for these assessments. So this project by the Gates Foundation is actually studying this in 14 states to really address the equity issue when it comes to teacher performance assessments. And then lastly, our third strategic priority is around quality and impact. We do this through various different activities that we execute throughout the year around advocating for policies to advance educator preparation. And I'll talk about one of our events that's coming up, which is Washington Week. It's our premier advocacy event where we provide advocacy training for our members, and then we also prepare them to meet with the congressional representatives to talk about legislation and how to really enhance policies that will, again, create more educators who are profession ready. So in terms of the Holmes program at AACTE launched in 1991. The program began as an initiative by the Holmes Group, the Holmes Coalition, which was basically a coalition of faculty members of color who obviously saw that there was an underrepresentation of minorities in the workforce in higher education specifically, and it's still the case today, unfortunately. So that was really the intention of why these individuals came together to start this program, is to make sure that we are providing the necessary support and also recruiting more minorities to pursue positions in the academy, whether it's as researchers and faculty, whether it's as presidents and provosts in higher education. That was the original mission, but the Holmes program has since expanded. So we're not just focusing on preparing scholars to go into higher education. As you can see, I work on the nonprofit side of higher education. So I work for an association that supports higher education. So our intention is really to support leaders, right? Leaders of color who are going to influence the field of education, whether through public policy, whether at state education agencies or at institutions for higher education. So why the Holmes program? I've included here just some stats for you, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with, right? So about 75% of full-time faculty members are white at colleges and universities across the country. And unfortunately, that does not reflect the demographics of students at colleges and universities anymore, right? So obviously we know that there is a need to diversify faculty members at institutions of higher education. In addition to that, we've seen that there has been a decline in degrees that are being conferred in education, which is partly why we're seeing, again, a teacher shortage crisis. But we're also seeing a decline in degrees at the graduate level. So 21% decline in master's degrees that have been awarded since 1975, and a stagnant level of doctoral degrees. So only 18% of degrees are being awarded at the doctorate level in the last 45 years, right? So there's no growth in this area. That means that, who are we preparing to enter the faculty positions that are going to, that are available, right, at institutions of higher education. So we need to make sure that we're not just preparing teachers, we know that there's a shortage crisis, but that we're also preparing faculty, individuals who can go into faculty roles. In addition to that, research shows that, again, college students of color lack a sense of belonging at their campuses, and that can really impact their retention at institutions. I was fortunate to attend HBCUs and PWIs in my experience. I went to University of Minnesota for undergrad, went to Howard University for my master's, and then BCU for my doctoral program. So I got to see, again, that sense of belonging at an HBCU or MSI is very much different than at a PWI when I was at the University of Minnesota. So we want to make sure, again, that we're preparing more faculty of color who understand how to support students who look like them. And then lastly, the Holmes program is really focusing on providing culturally responsive and culturally relevant mentorship to our scholars. So right now, the program supports doctoral and postdoctoral students. Years ago, when the program first started, we had a continuum in terms of supports that we provided starting in high school. So the goal was to, again, mentor high school students who would then go into undergraduate programs in education and hopefully matriculate through doctoral studies. We have since scaled back that model. So right now our focus is strictly on doctoral and postdoctoral students and also on master's programs. But we're not expanding our master's program just yet. We're continuing to expand doctoral and postdoctoral students. There are over 50 institutions that are part of the Holmes network, including UNLV. Majority of the students at those 50 institutions are doctoral students. So in terms of the program progression, as I mentioned, the original intention of the Holmes program was to prepare students of color who were going to go into the professoriate in higher education, but that has since broadened. So we are preparing leaders such as principals and deans, right? Superintendents, individuals who are part of the Holmes program. Some have that as their goal in terms of where they want to see themselves going. State leaders or individuals who are going to enter advocacy and policy, whether as lobbyists or working for various advocacy organizations. I also want to point out for you that there is a Holmes alumni network. So even after you complete your doctoral studies at UNLV, you can join the Holmes Alumni Association. There's a National Association of Holmes Alumni, NASA. The acronym is NAHSA. You can go to their website and learn more about them. You can start to learn more about them now before you actually complete your studies so that when you do graduate, you can join the NASA network. The great thing about NASA is that you get to pour back into current Holmes scholars. So many of our NASA members actually are often facilitators for a lot of the PD sessions that we host with Holmes Scholars. So you'll get to meet them at our conferences or any webinars that we host. We also sometimes do some professional development, some networking events rather, for NASA members and for Holmes Scholars. This is a good opportunity for you to find faculty members who are already in the field, who may have similar research interests as you, or if you just need mentorship, you can connect with a NASA representative and they'll be more than happy to do that. Many of them are always so eager to work with current Holmes Scholars and provide that mentorship because they benefited from it when they were scholars too, so they know the importance of it. So in terms of the benefits of the Holmes program to institutions, we've seen an expansion in the Holmes program in the last couple of years because a lot of institutions now recognize that it is a recruitment tool, right, for faculty members of color. When I was a doctoral student and a lot of my peers were going through the search process, many of them were actually looking for institutions who had Holmes programs because they wanted to be a part of that to mentor doctoral students. Or some of them went to institutions and, through their interview process, talked about, the focus on DEI and maybe bringing the Holmes program to the institutions that they were interviewing at. So recruitment and retention is definitely an added advantage for institutions to be able to not just recruit diverse faculty, but also to have faculty members who can support diverse students at their campuses. As part of the Holmes program, all of the scholars have an opportunity to participate in AACTE annual meeting. So if you're part of the Holmes program, you come to annual meeting, there's a Holmes pre-conference that happens, and we've had a Holmes job fair that takes place typically. And also a Holmes dissertation funding competition. And that competition provides dissertation support for scholars who are in that process. So these are all benefits to institutions. It's that you just don't belong to this association, but your scholars also get to benefit from this by being a part of the Holmes network. So whether it's the job fair, where there's the annual meeting, we also distribute faculty announcements. So many institutions will forward faculty announcements to us, and we'll send those out to Holmes Scholars because they're specifically looking for diverse scholars because of the challenges that they're experiencing in really, diversifying their faculty members at their institution. And then, of course, there's no additional cost for institutions rather to join the Holmes network. If they're an AACT member, they can automatically just become a Holmes institution by submitting a brief application. So there are no additional fees associated with that. In terms of the benefits to scholars, I mentioned there are more than 50 institutions that are currently part of the Holmes network. The added benefit of that is that you're connected to scholars who are engaging in lines of research that are very wide, right? So you can definitely find peers that you can collaborate with on research projects, depending on your area of research, which is always nice. Because sometimes, some of us are studying issues or areas that are very unique, right? And you may not have anyone at your institution that has that similar research agenda. So the Holmes network allows you to connect with people at different institutions who are pursuing similar research, and you can even, start different projects together. I know I did when I was a scholar. I was able to connect with alumni and scholars at other institutions, and we started our own writing group. So that's just an example of how you can really connect with individuals who have similar research interests as you. And then social media groups, we have several of them. So Twitter, Facebook, just an opportunity for you to connect with the Holmes network. And we also have a GroupMe account for Holmes scholars. There are over 200 scholars that are part of that account, and they often post social events or announcements of events and opportunities that are coming up. Also, sometimes they just celebrate each other's successes through that group. So if you're not part of the GroupMe account, I would strongly encourage you to join. And then mentorship and networking. You get the exposure to deans and faculty. by being a part of AACTE Holmes program. In addition to that, we have an online learning community called Connect 360. So if you're not yet on Connect 360, first you need to create an AACT account on our website, and you can actually get to Connect 360 from our website and join that online community. The different subgroups within that online community, depending on research interest, and then also the opportunity to present at the Holmes poster session. And then lastly, opportunities around professional development and career advancement. So we have a Holmes pre-conference that happens every year. Next year, that will be in New Orleans, I believe March 3rd through the 6th. So definitely pencil it in your calendar. Depending on how things, transpire with the Delta variant, our goal is to be there in person. But if it does change to be virtual, you'll certainly receive notice about that. And then we also have our advocacy events, which is Washington Week and Day on the Hill and our Holmes Policy Institute and our Holmes short course. So these events are really geared towards advancing education policy and helping scholars understand how do you use your research to inform policy, because there are opportunities to do that. So if you're a scholar who is particularly interested in that, I would strongly encourage you to register for Washington Week. And then career advancement, as I mentioned, we have our Holmes dissertation funding competition that happens every year. There are also opportunities for you to lead. There's a Holmes Student Council. I believe we have at least one member at UNLV, Priscilla Morris. I'm not sure if she's on the call, but Priscilla is on the Holmes Council. She, if I'm not mistaken, is a social media chair. So there are opportunities for you to take on leadership positions. Typically elections happen around annual meetings, so it'll be in March. So if you are interested, that announcement will be in our newsletter, so you'll get the information on different officer positions that you can run for to serve in a leadership role for the Holmes program. I also want to draw your attention to a DEI video series. I'm not going to play the video for you, but if you go to AACTE website and just put in the search engine DEI video series, there's several videos that I think you'll really be interested in, you'll find helpful in listening to. One of them is on the AACTE Holmes program and hearing from current scholars and former scholars about how the program has benefited them in terms of pursuing their careers, and also hear from deans who are part of the program. So something to take a look at. Other ways to get involved, as I mentioned, you are a member of AACTE. That's something that a lot of scholars don't know, right? Because it's an institutional membership. They don't think that they too can create an account and get communications or access the research and reports that aren't public from AACTE. Certainly know that you're a member, create an account, and subscribe to all of the communications. So our EdPrep Matters blog, our Holmes newsletter, join Connect 360, and then register for various webinar series. We have a webinar that happens at least every week on various topics, right? So definitely something, just ways to increase your knowledge and also increase your network through a lot of these events. And you can visit our research reports and brief webpage. It's hyperlinked here. Like I said, you'll get this PowerPoint and you can get directly to it to access the various research reports that we've put out. We have a report that will be coming out this fall. It's our national portrait that I mentioned. We publish it biannually. So definitely be on the lookout for that. It's going to highlight a lot of the trends in educator preparation, and we've included a new chapter on that report on community colleges, which I was excited to co-author with my colleague Jackie King, that really talks about how community colleges play an important role in really preparing teachers, particularly in the early childhood space, and how they can be supported, right? Because a lot of them serve low income and students of color, how they can be supported to address the teacher shortage crisis that we're currently seeing. I also want to share with you that the Holmes program has a Programmatic Advisory Council. All of these faculty members are on that council. So if you're interested in, finding, again, mentors, if you're interested in just learning more about, the benefits of the program, you can reach out to any of these individuals. Many of them are Holmes alumni. So Shanita Petaway, Dr. Shanita, she's an alumni of the Holmes program, and she's now in a leadership role at Columbus State University. Dr. Rhonda Porter is also a Holmes alumni. Andrew Dare, he's the dean at Virginia Commonwealth University, and he's also the Holmes coordinator. He's very passionate about the Holmes program. I was a doctoral student when he was my dean. So I just want to let you know that there is a wide network of faculty members and deans out there who are Holmes alumni or connected to the Holmes community that are always willing to have conversations with you, willing to mentor you. And really, oftentimes when these individuals are recruiting, they're looking for Holmes scholars. They really are. So as you think about, as you get closer to your search process, you want to consider institutions that have Holmes programs. And then just want to alert you, Washington Week is coming up. And I believe a few of you have already registered. I was looking at the registration list recently. So the Holmes Policy Institute is happening September 8th and 9th. This is an excellent event. When I was a scholar, I attended it every year because I was particularly interested in ed policy, and my program was in ed policy. And it gave me the opportunity, I actually interned on Capitol Hill one summer during my doctoral studies because I had ed policy program, but it gave me an opportunity to build a network on Capitol Hill, get to meet congressional members, and also talk to faculty and my peers around, again, using your research to inform policy. So don't miss out on that. We also have a Holmes short course that we started last year. This will be our second year doing this short course. We have Congressman Mandir Jones. He is from the 17th District in New York. He'll be joining us for the short course. He's an African-American man. I believe he's the first African-American man to represent his district in New York. Again, we want to make sure that our scholars are exposed to leaders who are, and he's also a member of the Committee on Education and Labor, leaders who are really trying to advance policies nationally to address equity and also to advance outcomes for all students, but particularly for students who have been historically marginalized. And then we have our Day on the Hill on September 21st and 23rd. Know that if you're a Holmes scholar, if you register for the Holmes Policy Institute, you receive complimentary registration for Day on the Hill. Right? So make sure that when you do register, you're only registering for the Holmes Policy Institute or the short course, and you will get the link to join the Day on the Hill event on September 21st to the 23rd. Day on the Hill is when those congressional meetings happen. So it's when you'll be meeting with your congressional representatives and your state teams, and you'll also get some advocacy training to prepare for that meeting. So don't miss out on Washington Week. It's an excellent event. Last year we had Congressman Bobby Scott, who was our one of our keynotes, and he showed up and spent an hour with the scholars, just him and the scholars on Zoom, and it was excellent. He's the chairman of the Committee on Education and Labor, and these people often want to hear from scholars of color. They want to hear from faculty members of color. They're creating policies, they're identifying what the issues are, but often they don't have all of the research to make those decisions, right? So the more you can make those connections with your congressional representatives, if you wrote something recently, share it with someone in their regional office, right? Like you really want to build that relationship. And here again are just some of the topics that we're going to cover. I'm not going to go over it with you. They're all on our website during Washington Week. And then I'm going to close with just, our motto is once a scholar, always a scholar. Like I mentioned, you're in the Holmes program now, but there's a wide alumni network outside of this, outside of your current studies that you can join and benefit from after you've completed your doctoral program. So any questions for me?
I know one question that I had received during the summer from one of our new scholars, Dr. James, was a question around submitting a proposal for the Holmes Scholars pre-conference conference. And so they wanted some information about, how do you, what kind of topics should one focus on, the deadline for that. That was, I think, back in July that I received that email. And so that's something that I think other scholars are interested in hearing about.
Yeah, that's a great question. Very timely. So the call for proposals for the Holmes program will be live on August 18th for the Holmes pre-conference. That information is going to be in the Holmes newsletter that will also be disseminated on August 18th, which is next week. But the good news is you have a lot of time to submit. The deadline is going to be October 31st. So when you do get that newsletter, take a look at the various strands that we have for the submissions, and also different session types. So we have the poster session, which many scholars love. We have the roundtable. We have our 3-minute thesis. So take a look at the theme and the description of those sessions, and you can submit via the link that will be in the newsletter by October 31st. And I will say too that if you're interested in being a reviewer for the Holmes pre-conference proposals, we actually are looking for reviewers. It's a good way to get some peer review experience to add to your CV. That information will be in the newsletter as well. But the Holmes research coordinator, Leah Herbert, she is the coordinator of the Holmes Student Council for the pre-conference. She's looking for reviewers currently, and her information will be in the newsletter. I'll see if I can add it to the chat as well. Just email her and say you're interested in being a reviewer. You'll have about, I think, 6 weeks to review all of the proposals after October 31st. You'll be working with other scholars and we'll be providing support. But again, just a good way to get some experience in terms of reviewing proposals. Any other questions or comments? And are you all active Holmes scholars, Dr. Sherilyn? Is that right? This is a group of active scholars?
We have Joseph. We were hoping that he might be interested in the future. He's joining us. He's not, part of the Holmes Scholars group, because our goal, Dean Hayes' goal, our goal was to invite the Holmes Scholars and then open it up to other scholars of color throughout the College of Education. And so we're hoping that those who are not a part of us would become a part of us in the application process in May of 2022. But, one question that I had, because I actually met a doctoral student on another committee, and he was not part of the Holmes Scholars, but he registered for the AACTE conference and he attended the Holmes Scholars events. And he was very impressed because he said he had never heard of the Holmes Scholars organization. So a question for you would be, could those doctoral students who are not part of the Holmes Scholars organization, would they be able to register for the Holmes Scholars conference?
Certainly they can. Because they're an AACTE member, they can definitely register and attend. Mm-hmm. I think I see a hand raised from Camilla.
Yes, hi. I know my screen, I have 2 boxes up. Thank you so much for your presentation, Dr. James. I also graduated from Howard University, so you in the house.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is my first time as a Holmes Scholar, so I'm truly excited to be a part of the cohort, and I'm looking forward to what I will be able to learn and the mentorship opportunities I will have. So is Washington Week normally an in-person event, and is it okay? So I look forward to that, and whenever we get done with COVID.
Yeah, it is in person. And Camilla, I'm just so eager to get back to having it in person, because it's such a great experience when our scholars come to Washington, D.C. and go on Capitol Hill, sit in and listen to sessions, meet the legislators. But we're going to be doing everything virtually this year. But I would say that if you're a scholar next year, hopefully we're in person, you don't want to miss out on that experience. It's truly life-changing, right? Because I think oftentimes scholars feel like they're so distant from policy on Capitol Hill, but you really aren't, right? Like you can really influence that. It's all about building the relationship with your congressional offices. And that's what Washington Week does, is help you to build that relationship.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'll jump in here because I know one item I'd like you to talk about, Dr. James, is the dissertation funding competition. I have to shout out to two of our attendees here, Dr. Monique Matute, who is a previous recipient of the dissertation funding, and then also Priscilla Morris, who's also a recipient of this dissertation funding. Yay. So I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, but could you kind of talk a little bit about that opportunity?
Yeah, I didn't even notice they were both on the call. Congratulations. Yes, absolutely. And they were both excellent. And so everyone is after UNLV next year. So just so you know, you all have won 2 years in a row now. So yes, the competition allows for scholars to compete for monetary awards to support the dissertation related expenses. So if you have expenses regarding coding, if you're collecting data, or you need you need access to software, whatever it is that you need to support your dissertation, you can apply for funding and compete in the competition for that. So the 3 level of awards that we provide, the first place winner typically get, I want to say, around $3,000. We are looking to expand that pocket of money in the coming year and provide more awards to our scholars. So you do have to apply, you do have to be selected to actually compete. So not every scholar can apply and be a part of the competition. So there's a process in which we review your proposal. You also need to provide a letter from either your chair or your advisor stating that you have actually passed your comprehensive exam, or at least on track to be able to, or you've at least successfully defended your proposal, your dissertation proposal, to be able to compete in the competition. But it is a great opportunity. It provides you to exposure to deans because on the judges panel, those individuals are typically deans of colleges and universities who are probably have faculty positions that they're trying to hire for, or also just to get feedback. Even if you're not the first, second, or third place winner of the competition, it allows you to get feedback from those judges on your study to strengthen your dissertation. So I don't know if anyone here is in the process of defending next year, but I would say please do apply when you get the call for proposals to compete in the DFC.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, are there any other questions for Dr. James?
This is a great group. And I just want to shout you out again, Dr. Sherilyn. Like, I'm just really impressed by the work that you all are doing at UNLV with your Holmes program. And you're the Holmes program coordinator, obviously, but you wear many hats. So thank you for really just staying active with the program and keeping your scholars engaged. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Dr. James, for joining us. I'm really excited for the coordinators meeting that's coming up soon because that's how I try to keep up with what the opportunities are. But, this year, Dr. James, one of our expectations is that the students of the Holmes scholars will also publish, practitioner-based piece or a database piece. So we're trying to have more of a focus this year on writing, on academic writing and academic publishing. And so that, I'm hoping that the writing might be a focus also of the pre-conference, because we're looking for those opportunities for our scholars to strengthen their publications,
Yeah.
you know, their talents in terms of writing and disseminating work related to their research before they graduate, because then that would position them for, you know, hiring positions as assistant professors.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I failed to mention that. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Journal for Teacher Education, JTE. JTE is AACTE's journal. So AATCE is, I actually serve as the liaison for JTE at AACTE, and we just transitioned it to Texas A&M University. So the editorial board for JTE is now at TAMU. And we've been in conversation with Dr. Valerie Jarrett, and also with, not Valerie Jarrett, Valerie Hill Jackson. I'm thinking about Valerie Jarrett on the Obama administration. Valerie Hill Jackson, my apologies, who is the lead editor, about ways to, you know, to bring in the home scholars in terms of special issues with that journal. So we're really trying to think, make it intentional to provide those opportunities for scholars around publication specifically. So if you haven't yet submitted to JTE, I would strongly encourage you to do so. I mean, they get a lot of submissions, but we also know that the work and their focus really on putting out research around equity in particularly is a priority for them. So if you're working on something with a faculty member that you think might fit JTE, certainly encourage you to submit.
And one last question that I had, I know that Dr. Matute is, she's an alum, and she's going to be our guest speaker today also, but I wasn't sure if she is a member of NASA, of the alumni. Okay, great. And, you know, I was also wondering if maybe she might consider starting a chapter at her university if there isn't one that's already there. I guess I'm putting you on the spot there, but it was just a thought that I had that I wanted to share with you.
Yeah, I really want to. The college just went through a merger, so now we're not College of Ed no more, we're the College of Health, Education, and Social Transformation. So it's a huge, huge college now. We are not a member of AACTE. We're going to be getting a new dean, so I'm hoping the dean they hire is part of AACTE so that we could get a home scholar program.
Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions or comments, I want to again thank Dr. James for joining us today. We've learned quite a bit. I've learned quite a bit because I think I'm just going into my second year. Might have been third. I don't know. With the pandemic, you kind of lose track of time. But I'm very appreciative of the information that you shared with us today. And again, thank you from all of us.
You're very welcome. You're welcome. I'm just gonna hang on and put some information in the chat for you all, and then I will log off. Thank you all so much, and take care.